This is Peak Earth. I'm Case Bradford. Thank you for tuning in to this episode with Dana. This is the second episode of Made with Dana. The first was years ago over the internet, and we were able to stay connected and meet up for the first time here in Costa Rica. We made an episode in this cabin, and I really enjoyed connecting with Dana and co-creating this episode. We dive deep into nervous system regulation, nervous system capacity. We do a really cool exercise to demonstrate that firsthand. So I'll have a link where you can watch that. If you are listening to this episode, it was a little bit visual in that moment. We discussed birth control, lymph system, and so much more. Dana is full of insights, wisdom, and knowledge. I really enjoyed speaking with her. I feel like we could have kept going for 5 hours, and we may have to make a part 3 sometime. If you'd like to contribute to Peak Earth, I came up with a few ideas. One is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I've been making many more episodes in person, so we've got a lot of cool episodes up there. Another is to leave a 5-star review on the Spotify app or Apple app. And lastly, the best way to contribute is to give someone a compliment today. While you're out and about, just notice something nice about someone and give them a genuine, authentic compliment, expecting nothing in return. You can go up to someone and say, "Hey, I really like the cut of your jib," if you notice that you enjoy the way that they express themselves verbally. Or you can say, "Oh my gosh, that's a really nice hat you have on." I think people tend to like when their hats are complimented. Lastly, before I forget, hope you have an amazing day. No more rambling from me. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this episode with Dana. How are you?
Good. I'm really excited to be here. This is the best podcast experience ever so far.
I will say the same. This is right up there with the ones that I made up in trees. This is tough to beat, being out here in this beautiful place, having spent some time with you, getting to know you better, and really enjoying the times that we've shared and listening to you describe so many interesting things. It's been great.
Thank you.
What brought you to Costa Rica?
I actually signed up for a retreat almost over a year ago now. So I wasn't even supposed to be in this part of Costa Rica. This was kind of like a last minute add-on. But generally speaking, during the winters of Canada, I like to go somewhere warm. And this time I got to go to an incredible retreat hosted by an amazing mentor of mine. And then just kind of came here for a week of integration and kind of turned into, this like awesome experience of getting to hang out.
Tell me a little bit about some of the things that you experienced and learned at this retreat.
Well, something that was really big for me after working in the world of the nervous system for so long was seeing how powerful somatic touch is. It's like a specific nervous system healing modality, really based and rooted in kind of like pre-verbal stress and trauma processing. So a lot of us, we don't get proper eye contact when we're little, and we also don't get proper touch that really helps your nervous system develop in a healthy way. So there's a lot of great stuff you can do online, and you can show people how to kind of do self-somatic touch and self-orientation, but being able to experience being held by multiple practitioners all at the same time, and then having 3 different women attuned to my body in different ways over kind of like a 1-hour period of time was genuinely like life-changing. I know people say that about retreats all the time, but genuinely life-changing. And it honestly really renewed a passion for my work for me, because I've been doing everything online. So being able to have that in-person experience and feel what it means to actually have your nervous system respond in real time and have what I would consider, like, a lot of people look for big cathartic releases in order to heal their nervous system. And usually that actually doesn't do what you think it does. But to have an experience of feeling my body actually go through kind of like a peak and experience resolution around something that my body's been holding, and then kind of like safely come back down into a parasympathetic state, that was just a really incredible experience. So that was like my highlight.
Beautiful. So many different directions we could go off that. Before I do, how would you describe yourself for folks who are unfamiliar? What is it that you do?
One of the things that we've kind of talked about this week that was a really cool aha moment for me to kind of place myself maybe in the world of wellness and health is I feel like I live between like the based bro wellness culture a little bit, and then this kind of like deep, sacred, feminine like nervous system healing for women. And so for, yeah, those that don't know me or my work, I started sharing about the nervous system, I mean, maybe over 5 years now. And at first I didn't kind of differentiate between the male and female nervous system. And then as I got more into it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's huge differences. So the last couple of years specifically, I've really specialized in helping women understand health and healing, specifically trauma resolution, through the lens of the female nervous system. And I really also specialize in helping women heal from chronic shame, which has a lot of profound physiological symptoms and has a lot to do with pelvic health for women. So that's kind of where I landed. And like the tagline for my business that I came up with recently is nervous system led health and wellness for women who are choosing body, biology, and soul as their path to wholeness.
Awesome. And you used a word earlier that I've heard before, but I don't really understand what it means. Somatic.
Somatic. So somatics in general is any therapy or therapeutic modality that is based on body up processing. So where a lot of mindset work that was really popular for a long time, where it would be like writing affirmations in your journal or like trying to control your thoughts, what we understand a lot more about the nervous system now is that 80% of the cues that go between the body and the brain go from the body to the brain. So there's a saying in the world of somatics and the nervous system that state creates story. So your nervous system state is more around what creates your thoughts and the story that you're telling yourself. So somatics is a broad term that would kind of describe any body-based practice, modality, or therapy that you're using that focuses more on addressing the nervous system at the body level as opposed to leading with the mind and the thoughts.
80%, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, that's massive. That means like the vast majority of the thoughts that we have are really dependent on what we're doing with our body.
Yeah.
The body-mind concept has always resonated deeply with me. I've always felt that they really are one and the same, much more than most people appreciate. And separating the two, I think, has done a massive amount of damage to most people who really internalize that concept.
I agree. And I think this was something for me that I really struggled with for a long time, because I feel like I've always been someone, even before I became, aware of any of the health stuff, I've always been a very like mindset driven person, or I was always really curious as like, why is my body doing this? Like, why am I like this? And like, I would say very like growth oriented. But before I understood the nervous system and somatics, I really approached everything from this lens of a lot of restriction and control, and the idea that like, oh, I can just use my mind to control my body. And a lot of it, I was like really deep in the world of like biohacking and mindset work, which has its time and place. But I think for a lot of people, especially if you are on, what we would consider maybe the more like neurodivergent or sensitive or like highly attuned person spectrum, where, and I see this with a lot of people that get into health, where like your body is very sensitive to like the messed up chemicals that we have in our world. And those are some of the ways that you can know that your body's more sensitive. You will probably have very little success with trying to use your mind to control your body, because your body is so sensitive. There's like a blessing and a curse to that, but it really shows how you can't out mindset, your own biology. And like some of our stress responses that we have are up to 500 million years old. Like they are deeply intelligent, deeply, physiological, and very like almost animalistic. And so the more we try and control that with our mind, typically that's where people actually develop a lot of shame, because they wonder why I can't control my body. Why isn't this working for me? Like, what's wrong with me? And so I think, being able to just that one thing of understanding 80% of the cues go from the body to the brain. It took me probably like 2 years to even really actually like settle that in my comprehension of how my body works. But then when I did, it was like, oh, okay, like if that's actually true, how can I tend to my body in a way that will allow my thoughts to naturally be kinder, gentler, clearer, instead of trying to have this like top-down approach all the time?
We really resonate on that level, because I've been on a similar journey, just through a different angle. And in the world of economics, which I studied in school, there's this renowned book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And in that, he creates this metaphor that your mind is like a rider on an elephant, and you can't really control the elephant at all. It's going to do what it's want to do, but as the rider, you can create these sort of incentives and gentle nudges to get the elephant to do what you want to do over time, with like proper cueing. And once you learn how to like ride the elephant, and I'm curious, what are some practical applications that you've come across over time that have really helped you along this journey of integrating this knowledge?
So I think, I mean, knowing the world that you're in and probably like a lot of things that you've talked about on the podcast before, there's like, like circadian rhythm, like sleeping well, blah, blah, all that stuff. Those are very practical things. But looking at it more from a like psychosomatic or like body-based emotional processing side of things, one of the areas that I see a lot of people struggle with, and they try and almost kind of like bypass their body, is when they're feeling procrastination, analysis paralysis, and that kind of feeling of like you want to take action on something, but you just literally feel stuck. That's where a lot of people try and push and force through. Even in like the base wellness community, that's where it's like, okay, I'm going to use like nicotine, I'm going to use a nootropic, and temporarily it works, but you're actually overriding what your nervous system and your body is telling you in that moment. And what I also see happen is a lot of people are scared to actually listen to that paralysis and the stuck feeling in their body. And there's kind of this general, I think it came from a lot of the mindset stuff where if I register and I acknowledge that I feel stuck, I'm actually perpetuating the stuckness, when that's actually the opposite. So a practice that I give a lot of the clients that I work with is, if you are feeling that analysis paralysis and that stuck feeling, if you actually go into fetal pose. So like go on the couch, go in your bed, and actually allow yourself to really slowly like go into the fetal position, or something where like your hand is on the back of your head, and you actually want to allow your body to go into a state of collapse. Because when we go into more freeze, that's literally what the body is doing. It's trying to say, I'm overwhelmed. I feel like I literally can't mobilize right now. And so you're going into freeze. So when we allow our body to complete that stress response instead of overriding it, we actually create more nervous system cohesion. And so when you let yourself go into the fetal position, maybe you'll be there for 10, 15 minutes, but you will notice that you'll get to a point where some part of your body starts to mobilize. Literally might be like your hand starts to twitch, or you feel naturally like an inclination to stretch your body. And you kind of use that as what I call like the somatic breadcrumb, where then as that part of your body kind of starts to mobilize, you just allow your attention to kind of come to like, okay, there's a little bit of movement there. Naturally, your body will start to kind of open on its own, and you'll be able to get up and probably much more easily go and like write the email that you didn't want to write, or like sit down and work on your business or whatever it is. And so that's like, in the world of the nervous system, what we're doing is we're allowing your body to move through an appropriate physiological response to overwhelm instead of overriding it. Long term, that helps us to like not rely on like substances or force in order to push through. And that's also one of the ways that we actually build real somatic safety in the body, which is like showing the body that your organic response is not incorrect, and I'm not going to try and override you. I'm going to actually let you come through.
Beautiful. It sounds to me a bit like what you're doing there, shifting from a place of fight or flight in a sympathetic state into a parasympathetic state of just more relaxed, and from that place able to just take the next step without facing the block of being overly energized by the confrontation of the moment.
To a degree, yes. I think something I'd actually love to like riff on the nervous system a little bit here, because so when you look at the nervous system spectrum, you have the parasympathetic nervous system. When we're talking about the autonomic nervous system, which is the part of our nervous system that's responsible for like breathing, heart rate, stress response, like all that stuff. So you have the sympathetic nervous system and you have the parasympathetic nervous system. Both of those systems are not inherently like stressful or non-stressful. It's only when sympathetic is paired with threat that you're in fight or flight. But you also can have the sympathetic nervous system paired with safety, which is what you need when you're moving your body. Women need this when they're giving birth. You need this if you're to like run, to mobilize in any way, you need to have access to your sympathetic nervous system. But when that's paired with threat, that's when you mobilize, but you're in more of that like fight or flight. Your body literally is going into a stress response. So that's one version of a stress response. When you get to a point where the fight or flight isn't going to work anymore and your body's picking up on like too much overwhelm, not enough resources, whatever it is, then you go into freeze or more dorsal vagal shutdown. So that's what overwhelm is in that paralysis. So you've actually passed through fight or flight and you are at like the next level of stress response. which is a harder place to be in, honestly, for a lot of people, because when you're activated, it can feel like you can really do something about your issues, versus when you're frozen, you just feel kind of more helpless. So after you pass through fight or flight, you go into freeze. And then if your body literally was preparing for death, you'll go into dorsal vagal shutdown, which is like, if you think of like a deer playing dead in front of a wolf or something like that, that's what would happen. So what I was just explaining about going into the fetal position, you're actually riding the nervous system spectrum back down through 2 phases. First, you're allowing your body to freeze and immobilize. Then once there's enough safety that can kind of discharge, then you'll actually go through fight or flight, which is the movement that comes into your body. A lot of the time you might feel like the impulse to like shake or like get up and jump around. Then you actually move back into parasympathetic rest or digest, which is like that place of more readiness, safety, and like creativity.
Amazing. And it's good to be aware of these phases so that we can sort of consciously orchestrate them about our day.
Yeah.
Another set of phases that are helpful to be aware of are in the realm of specific to female nervous system, but also just women in general, which is the menstrual cycles. And this comes into play if we're thinking about a lot of people who are currently on birth control, a massive number, and potentially being harmed by that. I'm curious to learn a bit about your thoughts on birth control and on the cycles that women experience.
Well, birth control's fucked, first of all. Like, no, immediately no. It's so wild. I think it actually disturbs me at such a great level that it's hard for me to connect to the intensity of the sensation in my body, because now I'm at a point of experiencing my cycle through true, like in my body. First of all, I'm very connected to like the cues. Like I can tell when I'm like about to get my period. I can tell when I'm ovulating, and I feel very reverent of my cycle. Like it's actually an honor to be alive at this time where I get to like tend to my cycle and learn about how to care for my body. And like the wisdom that is able to come from being in a body where every single week while you're in your, menstruating years, you quite literally experience reality through a different lens, a different like nervous system perception. I'll get to that in a minute. So the fact that being on birth control fundamentally shuts that cycle down in your body and creates like, if you do bleed when you're on birth control, it's not the same as when you're not. And it's like a false rhythm. That's disturbing. It is so anti-human to me. And also the fact that I'm actually very this is one of the blessings of having a very sensitive body. I was only on birth control for about 8 months of my life. I got put on birth control for skin issues when I was younger, and I had such a bad reaction to birth control. Like I literally, at the time I was like really into running, started taking birth control and then started having a lot of breathing issues. And then they tell me that they're like, oh yeah, 1 in however many women get a heart aneurysm or something from this type of birth control. So I had to go to the hospital, get all these tests done, and they were like, oh, we'll just give you a puffer so you can start taking a puffer on top of it. And then I just was like, fuck this, like I'm not taking it. So I'm actually very grateful because there's a lot of women who, were on birth control for like 10, 15 years. But I think there's 2 parts to it that I really want to summarize. Is number 1, just on a purely physical or physiological level, it completely distorts or disconnects you from your instincts as a woman, like your primal animalistic instincts. And I know there's a lot of people probably that would listen to this that are aware of how when you are on birth control as a woman, it makes you more attracted to men that are hormonally more feminine. And there's actually a lot of women that they're on birth control, they get married, and then they decide they want to have a kid with their husband, and they come off birth control and they end up getting a divorce because they actually are not compatible with this person. So it messes with your sense of smell, literally. Like you can't, if you smell a man's sweat when you are on birth control versus not, it will smell different to you. And smelling a man's sweat is actually a really important sign of compatibility. Like it shouldn't smell bad to you. It should smell good. So that's number 1. Automatically, it creates, I think, incorrect partnerships in many ways. And then number 2, just more even from a spiritual perspective, to fundamentally suppress 1/2 of the population's ability to tap into their biological wisdom, I think is part of why we have so many issues in our society of things like burnout and just like this completely urgent, very dysregulating pace of living, and also a really big disconnection from nature, which the four inner seasons that we have as women are deeply connected to the four seasons if you live in a seasonal area of the world. And so it makes it extremely easy to disconnect from the reality of nature and the earth. And it makes it a lot easier to be okay with like people fucking up the earth when you are disconnected from how it actually relates to and like is in your own body. So I think it just causes like sickness on literally every single level.
It's very disturbing to hear the way you describe it. And I watched a documentary about it, I believe called The Poison Pill. And there was one part that really struck me, a couple parts. One was the list of side effects that I don't think everyone digs into, but it's a literature that's the size of multiple pillowcases, all in like fine print of potential side effects. And then the other is how it's marketed to be empowering to women. Meanwhile, it seems to be straight up poisoning everyone who takes it.
That's like one of the issues that I had with it is this marketing of it being feminine empowerment. And I think if, I'm also very like, if you know what you're doing and you choose to do it, like personal responsibility is one of my main values. So if you literally are well educated on all of the side effects of it as a woman and you still decide to take it, okay, like do your thing. But like I think about, being younger, and like my mom was part of the process of like me going on birth control. And I 100% know that if she actually knew what she was putting me on and all of the real side effects, she would not do it because she loves me. And so that just feels really twisted versus real feminine empowerment, which is what all of our ancestors would have practiced to the best of their ability, is cycle awareness, where you have specific markers that you're able to track in your body. First of all, even knowing that you can only get pregnant between 5 to 7 days a month, you can't get pregnant the entire month. And then being able to know when you ovulate, because as soon as you ovulate, now you can't get pregnant. And being able to have these like fertility markers throughout your cycle would actually allow you to not only prevent pregnancy, but then to be able to get pregnant when you want to. And there are a lot of women now that are, reclaiming this wisdom and the knowledge. And I'm seeing it like more and more, which is beautiful. But like that to me is real feminine empowerment of, I know my body, I know the markers, and also being able to be like, from a woman's perspective, like with men who are really like caring about that and are able to like work with you and also be cycle aware to a certain degree. I think that's really beautiful.
Absolutely. And the kind of information that you share is authentic feminine empowerment, educating around how to take care of things. Like, for example, you were prescribed birth control for skin issues. The reason why you have had skin issues was not because you were deficient in birth control.
Exactly. It's something that's really been, I've had like a unique relationship with my own healing journey in that sense of, I started having health issues at a very young age. Like I think I was like 7 years old, and I started having a lot of chronic health issues, and like my vision was really bad from a really young age. I was always sick. Like I was very like immunocompromised, and that went on for a large majority of my life. I was put on birth control, and then I, was put on like Accutane, which like is so messed up. Like there's multiple lawsuits against them now and all this stuff. And, I'm going to these doctors, and it's like, I'm being told like, okay, like this is going to help heal you. And I think that I have this like unique relationship because on one hand, like I actually think I dissociated for a lot of my life because I already had these underlying health issues, but then I was being put on an insane amount of pharmaceutical medication while also being told by like men in lab coats and women in lab coats that are in, these positions of power in my life that like your body's not working properly. There's something wrong with you. We don't know why this one medication isn't working, so we're going to try another one. And it just compounded to be like deeply scared of my body, innately believing that something was wrong in my body and that all I needed was to find the right pill. And so I'm like, fuck that I had to like go through that. But then also I'm like grateful because I feel like just who I am as a person is I am able to now share a lot of this with like other people and other women and like help them realize that your body's actually having a completely appropriate response to a dysregulating environment. Or, if you've come from a family where you had, if your grandparents like were alive during like war times, like epigenetics is a real thing, and like you're being passed down, different stress or trauma imprints or different ways that your nervous system is born into experiencing the world. Or like if you're born by C-section, if you're like, there's all these things that impact the way that our body regulates or doesn't. And so being able to have that lens on it, and then seeing things like lifestyle, like trauma resolution, working with the body, like really listening to your biology, like that is actually the medicine that will heal you.
It's powerful, this perception, because there's over 100 million people who are experiencing what you experienced in America alone, just statistically speaking. And I'm curious, well, we could speak for hours about exactly how to go about healing oneself in the absence of pharmaceuticals, and it would be extremely difficult to help someone without knowing specifically. If someone did want to work with you directly, is that something that you offer?
Yeah, so the way that I work is I work one-on-one with women that have come in and done some of my like bigger programs. There's a bird. It scared me. Mostly just because it's actually an entirely new language and way of relating to your body. And I think there is like a period or a phase of education that's really important to be able to speak the same language, and understanding the difference between like circadian health is a really important part of healing. But if you don't ever actually address trauma resolution in the body, you'll hit like what's the word I'm looking for? Plateau. You'll hit a plateau. So being able to kind of have that understanding and like developing more of a nervous system led relationship with your body is really important. And then yes, like once women have kind of like gained a certain baseline of speaking the same language as me, then that's where you can do like really good, like deep one-on-one work. Yeah.
So you have the programs that you offer, and I'll link all those down below for everyone who's curious to learn more. And then once they go through that, they can then set the stage to work with you one-on-one to go deeper.
Yeah. And also sometimes you don't need to. Like, I think that's the cool thing. Like the way that I design my programs is to be able to be like actually a container for resolution, where like I do a combination of education, somatic work, and then I always provide like voice note support to everybody in between. And I actually find that to be really powerful, where like, for example, like the example that I gave about you're feeling overwhelmed, and so like go and lay down. A lot of the time, the first time women try and do that, like they feel like they're doing something wrong. Like, no, I'm like giving in to being lazy or like whatever it is. And so I always tell them, I'm like, okay, send a message in the group chat, tell me what's going on. And sometimes you just need somebody to remind you, like, this is literally the point you're learning to apply the work. And then they do it, and then they'll come back and they're like, oh my God, that actually felt so good. Like I needed that. And so just like being able to have that kind of ongoing support as you're like literally integrating like a new perception of your body, I think is really important.
I agree. And I could see how and within this brief conversation that we've recorded and shared, it would be incredibly powerful. But also from getting to know you better and having deep conversations over the past few days, it's a really incredibly deep and wide well of information that can radically transform one's life. And there's actually an example that you showed me the other day that I think we can demonstrate here. Hopefully I'm not off the camera. For viewers, this will be a little bit more engaging than people who are listening, but it was about standing on one foot with your eyes closed versus
yes. Okay, I'm going to do it. Okay, so I want to explain nervous system capacity. So close your eyes, lift one foot up, higher, and immediately you're like wobbly and it's hard.
Very hard.
Okay, so now keep your eyes open.
I almost fell over.
Yeah. And you're not faking it. That's
No.
like real. Yeah.
100%.
Okay, so
Try this at home, everyone listening.
Yeah, everyone try this. Okay, so I want you to feel from the very back of your heels all the way up the back of your body into the very back of your teeth. So kind of feeling that line. And then pick a point to focus your eyes on. Take one breath in, exhale, and then slowly press one foot into the ground while you lift the other one. And you'll notice that you're a lot more stable.
Yes.
So this is an example of nervous system capacity, that doing the same thing, but by having more healthy inputs. So vision is a healthy input. Proprioception, which is the feeling of being able to feel the ground, also feel where this like back fascia line is in your body. those are all examples of nervous system inputs that are healthy, that as you bring them in, it actually expands your capacity to literally do anything. Balance is literally controlled by your nervous system. And so you can do that in the same way with emotions, where I could ask you, like, if you were stressed, to do this exact same thing. And then I would be like, how do you relate to the stress? And you would probably be like, okay, like maybe it's still there, but it actually feels a bit more manageable.
Yes, I could do the entire rest of the podcast like this.
Yeah.
It's a really visceral, it's a very visceral and felt experience of the power that we contain to just like do something that is initially maybe a little bit challenging, feels impossible. And then when you get yourself together, straighten up, get on point, have things aligned, then you're like, oh, well, actually I can do this and more.
Exactly. And other examples that you could do to get the same effect, when we talk about nervous system, there's like resourcing and orienting. So all of your senses, so vision, feeling, tasting, hearing. And a really simple exercise you can do is like kind of go through your senses and then ask yourself, which of my senses feels most pleasurable or neutral to me today? And for women also, this can really vary based on where you are in your cycle. But like for me today, I would say sound, like just being in the jungle. And then I would ask someone like, how do you know that? And often that's a hard question for them to answer because it's not just like immediate. It's like a somatic knowing. But that's also a really good way to get into your body without, you don't need to do like an intense like 20-minute meditation and be completely in solitude. Like you can kind of do that anywhere.
I love that, attuning to the senses. We often just take them for granted. Like we just go out, we get bombarded with all these smells and sounds and sights and feeling, interoception, like all this stuff happening at once. It can feel like the radio transceiver is just completely out of our control and we're just being hit with all this stimuli, and it's like our responsibility to try and integrate it and weave a beautiful life out of what we're being given. Yeah.
I think it's the thing with the nervous system that it applies to everything, but you have to unlearn the idea that doing more is what is going to like regulate you. It's actually so much more about doing less, but with presence and safety. So it's like people, you see online, especially I think sometimes in the wellness community, it's like, okay, I get up, I do my light, I do my vibration plate, I do a red light mask, I do this, I do that. And it's like, you have like a 15-step like morning routine. And it's like, you and I've talked about lymph a lot, but I'm like, genuinely, I'm like, if I'm in Canada, it's minus 25 degrees. Like I'll go outside and for 5 minutes in the morning, come inside, I do a little bit of lymph stuff, and then I just like chill out. And I just like kind of, I'm just like in my body. I'll like, I don't know, read a book. Sometimes I watch like an episode of Netflix in the morning and I feel way more like regulated and resourced and in my body than I did even when I was like doing all these wellness things. But it was like really from a place of like stress and just like, oh, if I don't do this, like I'm not healthy. And obviously there's a middle ground to that. But yeah, just your senses, your balance, like there's a reason why you can walk through a door without hitting yourself on it every single time, because your nervous system takes in the space and then like helps you navigate.
That's really profound insight. A lot of people are trying to do more and expecting better results, but sometimes doing less, focusing on things that matter most are what gives us the key to open the door that we're seeking to get through. And you mentioned lymph there. Why is lymph so important?
Ooh, okay. So many reasons. One thing that I think is a really cool visual to have in your mind, and this is true for both men and women, your nervous system is like the conductor of your body. So it's like your nervous system sits at the center, and then every other system, lymphatic system, circulatory system, endocrine system, immune system, is like an offshoot and receives signals from your nervous system about like when, how much, why. Like it's kind of like the conductor. So when we work with different systems, and specifically the lymphatic system, it's a direct/indirect way of engaging the nervous system to bring more parasympathetic activation online. So 2 reasons why I really love working with the lymphatic system is, number one, it is almost like a wave jellyfish-like motion if you're doing more manual lymphatic drainage. Which I think really represents like yin, like the circulatory system is kind of yang, like blood, like that kind of thing. And then the lymph, like I envision it almost as like a white or blue like liquid that moves kind of like a wave through your body. And so I think in general, that's something that we're very like collectively deficient in, is like we're a very yang output, productivity oriented culture. So the idea of like deep cellular hydration and like a wave, slow wave, like parasympathetic system really being activated in your body is like really good for everyone. And then outside of that, when you understand how everything is connected, your lymphatic system is an extremely important like waste removal system in your body, and also is where you absorb most fats. So if your lymphatic system is not moving and it's really stagnant, your nervous system now is picking up on an internal threat, saying we have a huge amount of like toxin buildup in the body, and that actually will put you into an activated, typically like high sympathetic tone with threat in your body. And you're also not you're not digesting and actually taking in like bioavailable fats, which are extremely important for brain health, for actual nerve function, to hydrate the physical nerves of your nervous system. And so over time, this just kind of creates a feedback loop of like more toxin load, less fat absorption, less of a healthy brain, less healthy communication on your spinal cord and your vagus nerve, which over time then just like starts to shut your body down. So in like lymph, and just like again, you don't have to be super aggressive with it. Like you skip rope. That's, I think such a beautiful rhythmic way of activating lymph and just supporting flow in the body. And then you're getting all of those extra benefits of like being able to absorb the fat that you eat. One, for example, vitamin A that we would get from a lot, like beef liver, beef products and stuff like that. That's super important for cell turnover and like cellular health. If you're not absorbing that, you can be taking all the great supplements in the world, but if your lymph isn't moving, it can actually just turn into more waste.
Fascinating, and not something that we really hear much about growing up. And there's a reason why I perceive stagnation as one of the primary toxins that most people are being faced with in society, whether it's sitting at a desk all day, sitting in the car, sitting when they get home. You're constantly in this like king toes position, and you're not moving the lymph. So waking up and doing the big six, which I'll link down below, so we won't demonstrate that, but we both love that sequence, that movement pattern, that lymph mobilization practice, because it gets the lymph flowing. And then even something as simple as walking after meals or dancing, those two things are a great way to just like add more movement and lymph mobilization into the day-to-day routine.
Yeah. And like doing the big six, like once you have it down, it can literally take you like 3 minutes. Like it doesn't have to be a big thing. And it's actually something I've used with a lot of women to show them there's, in the world of the nervous system, like one of the things that is a really important thing to understand is it's only good for your nervous system when you are inside your window of tolerance. So when you go outside of your window of tolerance, even if you're doing healthy things, it's actually not good for you. So one of the best ways that we can learn how to actually track and read the cues of our body to know when we're operating outside of that is through doing lymph work. Because if you do too much too quickly, you get what's called a Herx reaction, which is then you'll have like a big skin breakout, or you will feel like super lethargic, or you'll actually feel sick because you mobilized too many toxins that your body was not able to actually get out of your body fast enough. So it's something I do with women is I'm like, we're going to start doing the big six. I want you to do it once a day and see how you feel. If you feel lighter, you feel more vitality, great. That's what we want. But you'll have women that do it and they've never done it before, and doing it one time, they're literally like, my digestion was messed up. Like, oh my God, like I had to go to the bathroom a million times.
Wow.
And so it's a really good marker to learn. And then you can add on. So you could do the big six twice a day. And then I'll teach women how to do a full body, like lymphatic massage on themselves. And like that, I always do at the end of my programs, because you have to like build up to that. So it's a really great way to learn how to find your window of tolerance in a very like physical way.
It's so beautiful. Our bodies are such marvelous machines, for lack of a better word. I don't personally like the comparison to machines, because it's so much more, so much better than any machine that's ever been made. It's so much more intelligent and adaptive, and it's amazing that we have so much going on that we can harness to live a better life.
I know. I think that was one of the things that at the end of my time in like the intense biohacking world, where everyone was just obsessed with like protocols and like, getting the exact dose of this and that. And just so like, I'm like, I don't actually think that we can ever really manipulate our biology like the way that people think that we can. And I also see that as a little bit of like a symptom of people not feeling safe to experience the body also as mystical, because I think that like it is inherently mystical. Like we can study all this stuff, but like God, like what, if God, goddess, source, universe, like whatever created our biology, like our brains literally cannot comprehend that. I don't think ever in its fullness. And so to just recognize that like there is an inherent mysticism to the way that our body works. Like there's so much happening in your body and my body right now that we're not aware of. We're never going to be aware of it. And our body's just doing that at any given moment. When you can really embrace that, and then you see the inputs that you do as just like nourishing the intelligence that already exists in your body, that to me is like the most beautiful combination of like, okay, X produces Y feeling, but I have literally no idea why this is the feeling it produces, really.
Nourish the intelligence that exists within your body. I really love that
Yeah.
line, and it just is so true. It really resonates with me. We have this infinite wisdom within, and a lot of what we've spoken about in terms of the things that you can do are in a lot of ways driving us towards this power we all have within, this intuition, this intelligence, this ability to create a beautiful world and form a fantastic life. And curious if you have sort of a mission that is driving you on this work, or something that you really kind of pushes you forward each day to share this kind of information.
I mean, I know we were talking about this the other day, and I was kind of asking myself this question that a mentor said to me of like, in your body of work, what are you protecting or what are you restoring? And I feel like there's kind of two parts to it. Number one is just like, I've been my own experiment going through all of this, and every single time I engage more with my body and I listen more and I like am more intentional, it always is amazing. Like I always feel better. My relationships improve. And so I feel like I have a very natural desire to just share that with people, because I know there's millions of people that have had the same struggles as I do. And then now being kind of on this other side where I'm like more trying to like be pro vitality as opposed to just like healing things. Mm-hmm. And so that's like a big, inspiration for me, is just like sharing because of what I've experienced. But then also beyond that is, I think, at a more collective level, and you and I've talked about this a lot, truly the more you become sovereign in your body and you really believe in the intelligence of your body, you see the world almost in like these two spaces of like, there's the people that also believe what you believe, and there's the people that don't. And the people that don't are typically very unwell. And they're living so far from our biological design. It's really sad. And I think one of the things that I have been able to do a lot because of the way that I can articulate things about the nervous system is I can really bridge the gap for a lot of people that are like, they know about the nervous system, but maybe it's, a woman who's like obsessed with cold plunging. And then she sees one of my, things that is like, cold plunging is actually really not great if you're a woman in general, let alone if you're already quite dysregulated. And so it bridges this gap for her where she actually starts to connect to what I think is kind of like the heartbeat of my work, which is like restoring this like ancestral and biological wisdom that women have when they're actually in tune with their cyclical nature, and also their instincts, which is like being able to be angry in a productive way as a woman, being able to have access to like a healthy aggression response and like know you can protect yourself. Like that is, to me, when you like restore the instincts to your animal body as a woman, you are, I think, actually like a powerful feminine woman.
Vitality, sovereignty, freedom to be powerful. I love all that, and really appreciate you being here and admire the work that you do. It's been awesome to co-create with you, and I'll have all the links down below. Dana, thank you.
Thank you.